Welcome back, zombie fans, to the Drunken Zombies Podcast. We're back with another fresh, addictive zombie story.
All wrapped up in a fun, scary package.
With masterful storytelling that'll keep you coming back for more.
We're serving up tales of brains and mayhem.
So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for another chilling adventure.
I'm Julia.
I'm Adrian.
And today we're taking a bite out of Dark Apocalypse, Mila's Gambit.
This one is a real nail-biter.
Oh, it is.
We're talking a Seattle completely overrun by zombies, total chaos, but in the middle of all this mayhem,
Yeah.
we meet Mila, and she's not just surviving, she's thriving in this crazy new world. And you know what? She's a total badass.
Right from the start, Mila's no ordinary survivor. She's genetically engineered, giving her enhanced strength and agility. Who knows, she might even have senses we can only dream of.
Right.
She's definitely got an edge, and she's using it to protect the people around her. But here's what I find really interesting. She's not going it alone.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, she teams up with other survivors, and they each bring their own unique skills to the group.
Like Jonah, her super reliable partner. And then later on, they meet Alex, who's a bioengineer, and Rhea, a scavenger who can find anything.
Exactly.
This is what I'm talking about. The ultimate zombie apocalypse dream team.
But don't think for a second that they're just chilling out in a zombie-free paradise. They're up against constant danger, and I'm not just talking about hordes of the undead.
Right.
There are other survivors out there who can't be trusted, and even leftovers from the government. Plus, there's that big mystery hanging over everything, or what actually caused this outbreak.
And that's when this story takes a hard left turn right. It wasn't some random accident. Someone engineered this outbreak, and they uncover the mastermind.
And you find out who it is.
A scientist named Dr. Elias. Remember how Mila is genetically engineered? Well, guess who played a role in that?
Dr. Elias! Talk about betrayal!
Right.
Mila's got this huge burden on her shoulders. She has to confront the guy who basically created her while trying to save what's left of humanity.
Exactly. But hold on, because just when you think things can't get any crazier, the plot thickens. Turns out Dr. Elias was just a pawn in a much bigger game.
Right.
Enter Dr. Cassandra Elias, his sister, who claims to be fighting the real masterminds behind the whole thing. We're talking shadowy organizations, world domination, plots the works.
It makes you wonder, who are these puppet masters and what's their ultimate goal? This is where the story goes from a zombie outbreak to something much bigger and scarier.
And that's when things get really intense. Mila, her group, and Dr. Cassandra Elias launched this all-out attack on the architect, who's the real villain, pulling the strings they're facing, grotesque experiments, twisted science, a whole vision of the future that's like a nightmare come to life.
It's literally a fight for their existence. They're facing impossible odds, but guess what? They managed to pull through, and it's like a beacon of hope shining through all the darkness. This story isn't just about zombies, is it? It's about resilience, fighting for what you believe in, and maybe even a little bit about the ethics of messing with genes.
Absolutely, and here's what really gets me. What happens after they win? Sure, they've defeated the architect, but the world's changed forever. Can they rebuild? What does their new normal even look like? I don't know about you, but that's what keeps me up at night.
What stands out to me is how resourceful Mila is right from the start. Remember when we first meet her, she's in an abandoned garage in Seattle, which she's turned into her own little sanctuary. She's even managed to fix up an old generator.
And that's when Jonah, her partner in crime, shows up with some bad news. There's a group of kids trapped in the old high school, and the place is swarming with zombies.
Oh, no.
Now, they'd made a pact to stay away from risky rescues, but Mila's got this soft spot for kids. You can tell she hasn't lost that piece of her humanity. She wants to help them, which really shows her compassion, even in this messed up world.
Yeah, definitely.
So they come up with this daring rescue plan, using flares to draw the horde away from the school. They breach the school, find those kids barricaded in the gym, and then lead them back to their garage through a gauntlet of zombies. It's tense, lots of close calls. But they manage to escape, thanks to Mila's skills and Jonah's support.
That's amazing.
The rescue is a turning point for Mila for sure.
Yeah.
It gives her this renewed sense of purpose and strengthens her bond with Jonah. It's also a reminder that even in the apocalypse, community and connection are super important.
I agree.
Back at the garage with the kids safe,
Yeah.
Jonah calls out Mila's gifts, her incredible abilities that save the day. But Mila, she sees it differently.
How so?
She sees it as a curse, something that attracts trouble and makes them targets.
She's struggling with her powers, afraid of what she can do and the danger it brings. It's a conflict a lot of us would probably have.
She knows they can't stay holed up forever, so she decides to face the music, embrace her abilities, and take on the forces threatening humanity. She knows it's going to be dangerous, but she's got Jonah and now these kids looking up to her.
She's stepping into a leadership role.
They realize they need a real plan, and Mila brings up the research facility downtown. Dr. Elias had mentioned it. And they're hoping to find answers, maybe even a way to stop the virus.
So she's not just reacting anymore, she's being proactive. She wants to understand the outbreak and fight back.
Jonah, always the voice of reason, points out that it's going to be incredibly dangerous. But Mila's right. They can't run forever, so they decide to infiltrate the research facility.
It's a huge risk, but they're determined to take the fight to the enemy. It's not just survival anymore, it's resistance.
They know they can't do it alone, so they start recruiting, forming alliances with other groups, promising to share. Whatever they find, they spend days gathering resources, weapons, anything to give him an edge.
In a disaster like this, collaboration and community become essential. It's amazing how, even in the middle of chaos, people can come together for a shared goal.
Their group grows with the addition of Alex, who's former bioengineer, and Rhea, that resourceful scavenger we talked about.
Their skills are going to be super important, especially Alex's scientific knowledge and Rhea's street smarts. Mila's really good at finding the right people.
The night before the mission, they gather around a map, going over the plan one last time. It's their one-shot do or die, no room for error.
You can really feel the weight of the situation.
Yeah.
They know the risks and they know the potential cost of failure. It's inspiring how committed they are to each other in this mission.
At dawn, they head out, choosing the city's sewer system to avoid being detected. They emerge in the bowels of the research facility, hoping to sneak in.
It's smart to take the less obvious route, even if it's more dangerous, shows how adaptable they are.
But their plan goes sideways. Almost immediately, alarms go off, the place is lit up, and they're ambushed by armed guards, leftover military probably.
Oh, wow.
The firefight is intense, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. They manage to retreat, but not without casualties. Rhea gets injured, and they lose a lot of their supplies.
It's a tough loss, a reminder that they're not invincible. Even the best plans can go wrong.
Back at their base, Mila realizes they underestimated the enemy. They need to be smarter, not just braver.
They're growing as a team, learning from their mistakes and changing their tactics. They're not afraid to adapt.
This is where Alex steps up. He proposes a new plan that's less about brute force. Using captured security drones to create a diversion and hacking the facility's systems, it's risky, and they don't have much experience with that kind of tech.
You can really see Alex's ingenuity. He's a problem solver, always thinking outside the box.
They don't have a lot of other options, so they go for it. The next few days are a blur of preparation. Mila and Jonah work with Alex on the drones, while the others fortify their defenses and gather intel.
It takes specialization and teamwork. Everyone has a role to play, and they're operating like a well-oiled machine.
Finally, the night for their second attempt arrives. The tension is crazy as they launch the modified drones, flying silent against the moonlit sky.
It's the culmination of all their hard work, their one chance to make this work. They're putting their faith, technology, and their own skills, hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst.
The drones create the diversion they needed, and the team slips into the facility without being detected.
That's a huge win proof that their strategy is working.
They reach the main lab, hoping to grab any data they can find about the virus.
They've risked so much to get here, driven by the need to understand their enemy. It's that thirst for knowledge that might save them all.
But what they find isn't data. It's a nightmare. The lab is full of grotesque experiments, mutated creatures, the kind of stuff that shows how far Dr. Elias was willing to go.
It's horrifying to see what led to this outbreak, how messed up the research had become.
And right in the middle of it all is someone they thought they could trust.
Oh, no.
Dr. Elias. He's cold calculating, and he admits to causing the outbreak. He wants to create a new world order from the ashes of the old.
Classic villain monologue revealing his warped view of the world.
They fight, but they're totally outmatched against Dr. Elias and his creations.
They're pushed to their limits, desperate to survive.
In a last-ditch effort, Mila taps into her genetically engineered abilities like never before. She turns the lab's systems against Dr. Elias, using his own monsters against him.
It's brilliant. She embraces her power, becoming the weapon she was afraid of.
They defeat Dr. Elias, but it's not a clean win. The data they get paints a grim picture. Other facilities, other experiments, all connected to one terrifying truth. The outbreak was just the beginning.
Their fight is far from over. They've won a battle, but the war is still raging.
They escape the collapsing facility, knowing they struck a blow. But their path ahead is long and uncertain. They've learned that sometimes the only way out is through.
The mission was a trial by fire, and they came out stronger. They faced horror and survived. but those scars will stay with them.
We'll leave you there on the edge of their next chapter, but don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 2 of this gripping saga.
In the meantime, grab another drink and we'll see you on the other side.
Don't forget to rate and follow for more tales of brains and mayhem.
Until then, stay safe out there and keep those zombie brains at bay.
Welcome back to the Drunken Zombies Podcast. We're picking up right where we left off with Mila and her crew reeling from that intense experience at the research facility.
They took down Dr. Elias, but at a price. And what they discovered is straight up chilling. This outbreak wasn't some random accident. There's a bigger, much darker force at play, and it's pulling the strings.
It's like they're peeling back layers of a conspiracy, and each layer gets more disturbing than the last.
Exactly.
They head back to their base, and you could feel the weight of that discovery on them. They've lost friends, seen things that would make your hair stand on end, and their world's gone forever. It's got to be tough to keep going.
It really has to be, but it's the classic hero's journey, right? Those trials and tribulations that push them to their limits and make them face their deepest fears. But even in the face of all that darkness, they find a way to keep fighting.
Right. Anyone else would just give up, surrender to despair. But not Mila, Jonah, Alex, and the others. They're tougher. They've had a taste of victory, and they know even in this messed up world, there's still something worth fighting for.
It's their resilience that fascinates me, finding hope in the ruins. That's what sets them apart. It's like a testament to the human spirit, how we adapt and overcome even the toughest situations.
So the big question is, what's next? They dealt with the immediate threat, but the bigger picture is even more daunting. Who's this mastermind they call the architect? What's he trying to achieve? And how can Mila and her group possibly stand against a power that's hidden and that huge?
Those questions are what drive them, what fuel their determination to dig deeper and fight for a better future. They're not just surviving anymore, they're actively resisting this darkness that's threatening to swallow everything.
And just as they're regrouping and patching themselves up, a figure emerges from the shadows, someone they never thought they'd see.
Who's that?
Dr. Cassandra Elias, the sister of the very dead Dr. Elias.
Wow, her arrival throws everything into question. Is she friend or foe? Can they really trust her? Her motives are a mystery, adding a whole new layer of suspense to the story.
Jonah Ever, the cautious one, is suspicious right off the bat. He's been through too much, seen too much betrayal to trust anyone easily, especially someone connected to the guy who started this whole nightmare.
I totally get his hesitation. They've been burned before, and the stakes are higher now than ever, but Cassandra insists she's on their side, that she's been fighting this conspiracy from within for a while now.
So she says she knows what's really going on, huh?
Yeah, and she says that her brother was just a pawn, a tool used by this more powerful, sinister entity they call the architect, and she offers them a chance to strike at the heart of this conspiracy, to bring the whole thing crashing down.
This is where the story expands even further. The architect becomes the symbol of everything they're fighting against, a representation of the forces that threaten humanity's existence.
For sure.
It's tempting, but also incredibly dangerous. Can they really take Cassandra at her word? Is this a genuine offer of help or some elaborate trap?
I don't know. I'd be really hesitant to trust her.
Me too. Mila, always the one to weigh the options, thinks it through carefully.
Well, she's got to be smart about this.
It's exactly. She knows they need more than just weapons to win this war. They need information, a way to outsmart their enemies, and Cassandra seems to have the keys to that knowledge.
Interesting. So she might be their only hope.
Right. Despite their reservations, they decide to trust Cassandra and form a very shaky alliance.
That's a big risk.
It is. She gives them critical intel, access codes, security layouts, the location of the architect's hidden command center.
Wow, so they're going right to the source.
They are. It's a big gamble driven by desperation and a shared goal. They're literally putting their lives in her hands, hoping she'll lead them to victory and not straight into a trap.
It's all or nothing now.
With a plan in place and their new, somewhat untrustworthy ally on board, they get ready for their most daring mission yet, a full-on assault on the architect's stronghold.
This is where things shift. They're not reacting to events anymore. They're taking charge, going on the offensive. They're not the hunted. They're the hunters now.
And the architect has no idea what's coming. The night before the attack, they gather, review the plan, check their gear, and prepare themselves mentally for the battle ahead. You can practically cut the tension with a knife.
I bet it's a quiet moment of reflection. They know what they're facing, and they know the sacrifices they might have to make. Some of them might not come back from this, but they're willing to risk it all to save their world.
As dawn breaks, this small band of survivors heads out, marching toward the very heart of darkness. They're ready to face their destiny.
Their journey is such a powerful testament to what humans are capable of: courage, compassion, resilience. They're facing unimaginable odds, but they never give up. They're fighting not just for themselves, but for the future, for the chance to rebuild and reclaim what was lost.
And that's where we'll leave you hanging right on the edge of this epic showdown. Don't worry, though, because in Part 3, we'll be back to witness that final confrontation, the clash that'll decide the fate of humanity.
Tune in next time for the thrilling conclusion of Dark Apocalypse, Mila's Gambit, only on the Drunken Zombies Podcast.
Stay thirsty, zombie fans. We'll be back.
Welcome back, zombie fans, to the Drunken Zombies Podcast. It's the final part of our look at Dark Apocalypse, Mila's Gambit.
It's been a wild ride.
Mila and her crew, along with the mysterious Dr. Cassandra Elias, they're on their way to face the architect, the mastermind behind this whole apocalyptic mess.
Marching straight into the lion's den.
A heavily fortified compound, the nerve center of this whole operation. Talk about a suicide mission.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But what strikes me is their absolute commitment to the cause.
Oh, yeah.
They're fully aware of the risks. They know the odds are stacked against them, but they refuse to back down.
They're not giving up.
No way. It really speaks to the strength of the human spirit.
So as they get closer to the compound, the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
You can just feel it.
Picture this. The sun's setting, casting these long, creepy shadows, and everything's eerily silent.
Oh, it's spooky.
You know, right? They managed to breach the perimeter using a combination of stealth strategy and good old-fashioned force. This team's got it all: brains, brawn, heart. They're ready for anything.
But don't think for a second that it's easy. The architect's forces are waiting for them, and they unleash wave after wave of those grotesque experiments.
Those things are
The
terrifying.
kind that make regular zombies look cuddly.
It's pure chaos, gunfire explosions, hand-to-hand combat. And in the middle of all that, Mila steps up as a true leader.
She was born for this.
Yeah, her genetically engineered abilities give her a serious edge in this fight.
She's not just fighting to survive anymore. She's fighting for a future. A world where humanity can rebuild, and those responsible for this nightmare are held accountable.
It's bigger than just her now.
The deeper they go into the compound, the more they uncover about the architect's twisted vision labs filled with nightmarish creatures, evidence of horrific experiments, a whole plan to reshape humanity in his image.
Ugh, it's chilling. It makes you realize that the real monsters aren't always the ones with rotting flesh.
Right. Sometimes the most dangerous creatures are the ones with brilliant minds and a complete lack of morality. And the tension reaches a fever pitch when they finally come face to face with the architect.
I bet.
He's a chilling figure, radiating this aura of cold, calculating evil.
Like a classic Bond villain.
Exactly. He taunts them, mocks their efforts, tries to convince them they're just pawns in his game. But Mila's not buying it.
She sees right through him.
She throws his words right back at him, letting him know they're the ones who will take him down.
You go, Mila.
The final battle is straight out of an action movie. Mila, fueled by righteous anger and her unique abilities, goes head-to-head with the architect in a showdown that'll decide the fate of humanity.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Everything hangs in the balance as they exchange blows. It's a clash of wills. A woman determined to save her world against a man who wants to rule it.
Who's gonna win?
And in a truly awesome display of power and courage, Mila delivers the final blow, defeating the architect and setting his entire operation crumbling around them.
Yes! Take that architect.
But victory comes at a price in a last act of defiance. The architect triggers a self-destruct sequence, and the whole compound starts to implode.
Oh no, they gotta get out of there!
It's a desperate race against time as Mila and her crew try to escape the collapsing structure. The ground-shaking explosions are going off everywhere, and the clock's ticking.
They're running out of time.
They manage to escape the inferno, battered, bruised, but alive.
Thank goodness they made it.
They won, but they know the fight's far from over, the world still in ruins, and the scars of this outbreak run deep.
What a story.
As they watch the compound burn, a symbol of the darkness they've overcome. The weight of the task ahead of them sinks in rebuilding healing, preventing this from ever happening again. It's a huge undertaking.
They've got a long road ahead of them, that's for sure. But you know what? If anyone can do it, it's Mila and her team.
Dark Apocalypse, Mila's Gambit. It's a story about resilience, courage, and the fight for a better future.
A reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can survive.
And humanity can find a way to rise from the ashes.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? Did Mila and her team make the right calls?
Mm-hmm.
Could they have done things differently? We want to hear from you. Head over to our social media and let us know your thoughts.
And don't forget to rate and follow the Drunken Zombies Podcast for more tales of brains and mayhem.
We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new story. Another dose of zombie goodness, served up with a side of laughs and chills.
Until then, stay safe out there, zombie fans. Keep those brains sharp. And remember,
Sometimes the end is just the beginning.